In this video, we're going to have a look at how to represent data with a broken line graph and a pie chart. A broken line graph, just like a bar graph, can be used to represent discrete data. In the example, the data values are indicated with points on our graph, and then these points are connected with straight lines. A graph like this makes it easier to identify trends in the data. You can also draw a broken line graph consisting of two line graphs and then compare the data of the two graphs. Example 1. The table indicates the profit of a bookstore for the first 6 months of the year. Represent the data in a broken line graph. In this case, we are already given our system of axes. So I'm just reminding you that when we had a look at graphs, you learned that the x-axis always has the independent variable on it. In our examples case, that will be months or the time that goes by. On the y-axis, we have our profit, and then we need to add a heading. Focusing on the intervals on the y-axis, you will see that the values indicated are 500 apart. But our first interval is 1,500. And that is simply to save space and not have a whole part of your graph with no data values in it. You are allowed to do that as long as you indicate with a zigzag that the first interval is not the same as the rest. And now one by one, we're going to plot points for the given data. In January, the profit was 2,000 Rand. In February, the profit was 3,500 Rand, and then it dropped in March to 2,800 Rand. In April, they had their biggest profit of 4,000 Rand, and in May it was 3,600. Then finally, our last value in June was a profit of 2,400 Rand. And now that all the points have been plotted, they can be connected using straight lines. And from our graph, we can now clearly see that the maximum profit was in April with 4,000 Rand, and the minimum was in January with 2,000 Rand profit. The next option for representing data is a pie chart. A pie chart is useful when you want to show how the data is broken up into percentages. Therefore, you need to be able to do calculations with percentage. Let's have a look at an example. Example 2. The table below shows the results of a survey that was done about learners' favorite streaming platform for series. Question A, complete the table. To complete the table, you need to determine the percentage and how many degrees each platform makes up of the total number of data. And for both columns, we're going to start off determining what fraction each platform is of the total. So starting with Netflix, we know that 90 out of the 250 people prefer Netflix. To convert this to a percentage, we need to multiply the fraction by 100, and this will give us 36%. And to change this value to degrees, we're once again going to start off with the fraction, but this time I'm going to multiply by 360 because there are 360 degrees in a circle. Rounded to the nearest integer, this is 130 degrees. So we're going to start off every time determining the fraction, and then to change that to a percentage, we will multiply by 100, and to convert it to degrees, we will multiply by 360. Next up, if we have a look at Disney Plus, the fraction is 45 out of the 250, so that means the percentage will work out to 18%, and rounded to the nearest integer again, the degrees will be 65. These same steps can be repeated for Amazon Prime, Showmax, and Apple TV. When adding up to get the total, you will see that the percentage is 100, but the degrees work out to be 361. The reason for this is that I've rounded some of the values to the nearest integer. This small rounding, however, will not affect how your pie chart looks. Question B. Draw a pie chart to represent the data. To draw a pie chart, you do not need to use a protractor. You already know that half a circle is 180 degrees and a quarter circle is 90 degrees. If I halve that again, I will have a 45-degree angle, and half of that will give me 22.5 degrees. This is enough information for you to be able to estimate the size of each sector. I'm going to choose to start off with Showmax because the 43 degrees is very close to 1/8 of a circle's 45 degrees. So my first sector will be that for Showmax, and that is just smaller than 1/8 of the circle. Next, I'm going to indicate Amazon Prime, which is 94 degrees and therefore just a bit bigger than a quarter of a circle, and that is Amazon Prime. 90 degrees plus 45 degrees is 135 degrees. So next I'm going to have a look at Netflix, which is just a bit smaller than this. This means that the sector at the bottom right of my circle will be more or less 130 degrees. The remaining sector at the top should now be divided into a 65 and 29 degree part. The bigger part will then be for Disney Plus and the smaller sector for Apple TV. In this pie chart, I chose to indicate the number of degrees for each sector. You can also choose to indicate the number of people or the percentage.